That doesn't help. I keep forgetting to remove the welcome sign. It's becoming like a habit of mine.
I was expecting saying hi.
I guess it can work, if you have the welcome sign before you actually view the people online. It could be kind of cool. But that was not my intention to make it that type of cool. That was just an error on my side by not removing the welcome sign. While
Well,
the countdown was happening. But anyway.
and let me say this that but this generation they don't wait for 30 seconds to watch this. They'll pass the video or they'll watch another video. You know,
Yeah,
it's
true.
so fast.
But also, what's becoming a trend now in the podcasting world is that, we had this transition from wired earphones, and then you started getting these Bluetooth earphones, and then people had now tablets, and they were viewing their favorite podcasts, whatever it may be. But trends are changing all the time. Now, wired earphones are coming back, and it's starting to trend again. It's becoming popular again. So even with podcasting, and I explained this also, or I never really explained it. Another guest on another show this week, we were talking about it because people now don't want to waste too much time sitting down and watching a video for about 30 minutes or so, give or take, 1 hour. So now, okay, what can make it easier for me is just to, have the earphones on and listen to the audio and continue with my life. So you like multitask. And I'm one of those, peoples. I'm one of those peoples. When I listen to a podcast, I'm always busy with something else. And I got a Bluetooth speaker next to me and I'm playing the podcast. And depending where you're listening to the podcast, you got an option to watch video or convert it, well, not really convert it, but listen to it on audio as well. So it just depends. I don't know. What type of podcast listener are you? Do you prefer audio or do you prefer video?
Usually audio, but also video, both of them. But I just do it
I guess if you thought,
for itself. I mean, multitasking is very good, and I do sometimes, and I just think that it shouldn't be because you should focus on one thing, and that is when you are really doing one thing. I mean, it's just some people watching or just watching movies and eating something, and you don't realize what you're watching, and you don't realize what you're eating. Have you really thought about how many times you choose something? It's just a crazy question. But we don't do things consciously. We should do things consciously. And when we do multitasking, most of the time it's unconscious. You might not be tired, but at the end, you don't know what you did.
true, true, true. You're not the first person to tell me that. It's because we're not present. We're not present in the moment.
Yeah.
Like I can be here right now, but my mind is a million miles away thinking about tomorrow or Tuesday or that task that I need to complete by Friday. Natural human behavior, which is understandable. And sometimes just to remain in the present can become a really hard task. But I find what works for me is just closing my eyes and like breathing and trying to still the mind and just focus. So, but it also just depends. Like if I'm doing something that doesn't require too much of my attention or too much energy or too much focus, that's the time I will listen to the podcast. So, for example, if I'm editing a podcast episode, that's a good time for me to listen to a podcast because it doesn't require, 100% of my attention. I'm not trying to say that I don't give all of my attention to editing a podcast, but that's a situation where I can multitask. But I agree with what you said about watching something on TV or on your phone while eating because we're not present. And one guest that I had a couple months ago, who deals with purpose, uh, he said that his example of explaining it to me was if you eating a piece of chicken, for example, are you really tasting that chicken because you're so distracted? Because how many times do we like dish a plate of food, right? We put a movie on or a series on, or we're watching some stupid TikTok funny video, and next thing you know, the plate is empty. You're like, what happened to the food? You know, you never like really enjoy the food itself. So I agree. I agree. So what would you
Yeah,
suggest we
I
do to
agree.
I think before you answer that question, I also recall once I was listening to a local radio station and I can't remember exactly what the question was. It was something around what do people do most while eating? Yes, that was the question. To what do people do most while eating? And at the top of the list was watching TV. So trending at the moment, like in South Africa now, because this was the local radio station, there was a high percentage of people that said, based on the survey, that they cannot eat without watching something on TV. Crazy, crazy.
Yeah, yeah. I can fully understand that because I am one of them. Yeah, and I'm aware of that, but I do like that because of a lot of things, hormones and as I said, how our body is being controlled
Yeah.
emotionally.
But do you think it's something that we can change for ourselves? Is it changeable?
Yeah, definitely. And it is good to change.
Yeah, true, true. The habits are the hardest change we could make in our life. Um, but once again, what I said come before coming onto the show, it's about choice. Do I want to change? And then
Yeah.
something you would say is, if you're happy eating in front of the TV, be in your happy bubble. You know, it's a,
That's the whole point. If we're happy with it, why not? It does not serve ads anyone else. Why not?
I've mentioned this book before. I don't think I mentioned it to you. It's called The Let Them Theory. It's by Mel Robbins. It's a very good book. And one of the chapters was about being in a relationship, right? So you married to someone. And one of the examples that she used is that if I'm going to the gym because I want to take care of myself, I want to improve my health, I want to extend my longevity, to love. But then my husband or my wife doesn't want to do those things. They rather sit in front of the couch, watch Netflix the whole day with 10 packets of chips in front of them, you know, cool. So what she says is normally in relationships now, the other person now will get upset about it and approach the manner in a very aggressive way. The shouting starts, the fighting happens, you don't really get any resolution, if that's how you're going to go about it, honestly speaking. So her solution to it is to have like this open-ended conversation with your partner, you know, and you just let it be. You continue with your lifestyle. And she says psychologically that becomes like a motivational element for that person. So it's like instead of me forcing Zara now to do something because I do it, let them theory is let Zara do it. Have an open ended conversation about it and just let it be. Because that now becomes now the motivation because now Zara or Kino goes back and thinks about, sure, what Zara said today, that does make sense, And then people are more willing when you give them that space to actually meet you halfway. So I thought, let me
That's
just
the
say
whole
that.
point. We should not we shouldn't force anyone to do anything specific for themselves. If if it's about us, then it's another point, let's say. But if it's about them, let's say, as we were talking about discipline, about themselves and their lives, who are we to tell them what to do and what not to do? Because they are in their journey and they can get what they want. I mean, spiritually, the information, and they act based on that, based on their own logic, based on their own experience. We are on our own. We're just someone who meant to be in the life, and then someone who meant to be in our life. And that's it. We are in our own journey. Someone understands something at their, let's say, 16, the other one at 61. We can't judge them because of understanding that thing at 61, that person is, let's say, not mature or anything. Because their life journey was different. And they got to the stage to understand that thing. And that's where the judgmental state, if we have that kind of state, comes to the stage of saying, I am not being judgmental. It's just how it is. There is a sentence saying to be or not to be. And now let's say to judge or not to judge. We can't say.
Yeah, I agree that you shouldn't force anybody, but you can have a conversation. That's why it's open ended. So Mel Robbins says, it must be open.
That person at puts to have that
Of course.
conversation.
And I guess it also depends on the relationship. Like for
Yeah.
Mel Robbins now, she used an example of a married couple. So of course now the dynamics are different because you're married to this person. So now that marriage now also has its own terms and conditions, that automatically comes with it, the unwritten rules of marriage in the world that they don't tell you about before you get trapped, So when you're in that relationship now and you stay together, I guess, as I said, the dynamics are different. So it's more of like, I'm not going to force this person to change, but I'm going to have a conversation with that person to change because I'm married to that person and I care about that person. And if we are going to survive in our marriage for the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years, if that even does still exist in 2026, I need to have this conversation, or, I can use like another example. If, let's just say, a couple now, they recently got married, but now the wife is working. So she's now the breadwinner. It's her income that's actually supporting and paying for the bills and so on. And now my husband just lost his job, but now he's so traumatized about losing the job, and 1 year has gone past, and he's just not bothered about looking for another job. You see, so now you have to approach it and say, look, if you need to get over this, it happened, and look for a job. So it just depends on the situation, definition and relation.
Up to the situation, right.
Yeah, 100%. So, Zara, episode 2 of No Scripts Attached. This is where we say it's a short one, but we're already 15 minutes in. So for the next 15 minutes or so, while we were chatting on email, you mentioned an organization. I'm going to call it an organization. I don't really know what it is, but I found it quite interesting when you were explaining it to me, called Couchsurfing. Now, before you continue, I just have to mention to listeners that I had quite a good laugh about this before we could come on to the show because I thought I heard cow searching, cow as in moo, cow searching. So that was quite funny for me, but it's actually called couch surfing. So Zara, what is couch surfing in the East?
Well, first of all, it's not an organization, it's an app. It's like, it's not a good word to say, good comparison. Like dating apps, how you find like someone, just like that for travelers. It is, everyone says it's not a dating app. Just for travelers, you can meet any type of people at any age or 18, I guess. Uh, and you can ask if you can stay at their home to they can host you, or when you're traveling from one city to other, from one country to the other country. Let's say I want to go to Vietnam. So I don't want to pay for. It's not about paying also. Can you cut this part? Because I don't want this to be there, because it's not about paying. It's mostly it's about meeting people, meeting cultures, and living with them. But I'm not sure if you have to pay to live with them. I'm not sure about that because I haven't. But it also has hangouts where you can find people around you in that city that are travelers or people living in that city and wants to hang out with travelers. So basically, let's say I go to Jakarta and it's an afternoon and I want to meet someone new who's someone whom I don't know to call in Jakarta and to hang out with. So I just open this app and I just see who's around me. I can read everything about them. Where are they from? What do they like? Why are they in this app? What are their interests? What do they read? What do they watch? And then I can just ask if they want to have a hangout. And then sometimes it's a group of people from like various countries from at any age, talking about something, introducing themselves to each other, and trying to understand more about each other's culture, language, interests, why do they like something, and how they came here, all met there. And sometimes you just meet very interesting people, like writers, like let's say travelers who has been traveling the whole world like for years and years, and then you meet them. Someone who lives in a jungle without internet, and then once upon a time comes to the city, have this app, and then you meet that person, A lot of varieties of culture you can see there. So usually when I travel, I just go to the cities around in the island that I live, Java Island, and I try to meet people. I'm very interested in meeting local people who live in that city because they know a lot about their city, so I can ask for history. And so it's way much better to read, like, to ask someone for history instead of reading for me, because history is a little bit not interesting for me. So I just ask people how this thing is in the city, what happened to the city, why do they have this culture, and how can I be more into this culture? How can I do this? How can I practice this, let's say, ritual they're doing right now? And I can also meet other people who are, as I said, are traveling like me from maybe some other countries. And there are also, let me guess the city, Johannesburg, as you said once. And I want to come to Johannesburg, and I really do want to see how people live because I don't know. I don't have any idea how people in South Africa lives, and you are local there, and you are living like other people. So I ask you if I can come and to know you better. So I just have they have this requesting options, and I can explain why I'm interested to come and stay maybe one day or 2 days in your house, and you can read and decide whether you accept based on your conditions and my reasoning if you want or not. And that's how it works. It makes connections between people, especially in this world right now that they're just being so far away from each other because of the internet. And
Right.
it's also, it has a lot of tips in the security case because you have to be safe, and trusting people is a very hard thing to do. But in this case, there are some tips, and you can also just consider some security tips and your own instinct, let's say, about people if you feel safe with them.
So what I got up on the screen is the correct one.
Yeah.
Stay with locals and meet travelers. So what would you say? Okay, you sort of mentioned, a lot of great benefits of getting to know somebody from a different background. But is there any other benefits to this? Like besides what you mentioned?
Yeah. I make a okay, it's not like I personally physically met that person, but I just was scrolling to find out like people who are in the country that I live and in the city that I live. I was traveling in, and I find out about an Afghan boy whom I'm in contact with right now. He was very smart. He was having his Afghanistan tour agency through this app. You can't find Afghanistan app agency very easily unless you search in let's say, in Google, if you really want to go to Afghanistan. But here, if you just scroll and find that agency, you'll automatically think, do I really want to go and see Afghanistan? I've heard a lot about Afghanistan. Do I want to go? That's how it works. And I met that person and I asked, why do you have this? And he said it's easier for them to find us, to see this option. So it can be a kind of business too, but I'm not sure if it is allowed by Couchsurfing.
Okay. Okay.
Other benefits,
So
I don't really remember. I'm not.
yeah. Yeah. Okay. So now we know the difference between Couchsurfing and a dating app.
It is not.
The end goal is the same, but it's a different
I try to explain it.
And how safe is this? So I travel to the east and I get Couchsurfing and I want to meet with locals. Now, what is there vetting processes for the people that actually offer to take you in? Or I come across Zahra Amiri now on the app. How do I know Zahra is not a serial killer?
Yeah, it can be. I mean, you have to be very careful. And usually people, I don't know, just listen to your heart, maybe. In that case, yeah. But you can follow a lot of security tips to really be sure of that person. You can have like video calls and maybe a friendship of 2 or 3 weeks for 2 or 3 weeks to really get to know that person, intentions and everything. whether you're a host or you're a guest. But it's very easy to be a host there, so anyone can be there.
Beauty of technology now in 2026. So, I mean, according to Copilot, profile verification and references ensure your co-surfing profile is complete, authentic, and verified. So there is a verification that takes place, but let's be honest, okay? Even if verification takes place, it doesn't mean you're completely 200% safe, okay? It's not the case at all. So I would still go with what Zahra said, is to do your own research, and follow your heart. I agree with that statement. Your heart will tell you yes, no, maybe. And be safe about it. Because even if you do a video call with that person, doesn't mean it's guaranteed, that you will be safe. And you always have to just take precautions. You always just have to take precautions. I guess it's safer just going to meet somebody that may be in Indonesia, for example, versus, hey, let me go to this country or this area to stay with someone. You really have to be vigilant about those things. And honestly speaking, the world in 2026, whether it's east or west, you have to be vigilant with everything. With everything, honestly speaking. That's just the current state of the globe at the moment. Because you just never know, what somebody may be out to, what scams happening. And scams happening all the time. I mean, look at human trafficking. Human trafficking it's out of control. It's unstoppable. And I know in the East, stuff. When it comes to the topic of human trafficking, we don't have like really high numbers, when we're looking east. I just did a basic research now, looking at some global stats, which makes sense to me logically. When we talk about human trafficking, it's like Europe, I know, can be quite terrible. So yeah, but I mean, that is what couchsurfing is. So what would you say is the preferred audience? So like, say somebody is visiting, a country somebody's coming to Indonesia. What would be like the ideal audience for this? Somebody who's lonely, somebody who just needs a friend. Who would be the ideal audience for couchsurfing to meet a traveler?
Someone who lives in Indonesia.
Yeah. So say I'm coming to Indonesia, but I'm coming alone. But I mean, there's a lot of people that travel alone. But who's the ideal audience? Who's the type of person that will go on to couchsurfing?
Usually, well, it's an app for every individuals, so they can be with friends. I saw a couchsurfing host, and also someone who was a guest for other people, and she was with her children. She was traveling with her children around Indonesia. She was Indonesian, and that was crazy for me to see that someone was traveling with using couchsurfing and was with children. But any kind of people can be there. Usually, as I said, it's because as individuals, so there are solo travelers and people who are in Indonesia, locals who are posting, they are from any country because a lot of other people from other countries live in Indonesia. And usually, they are more adventurous than other people who are in couchsurfing. That's what I thought, maybe. Because they want to know other people from other countries, other cultures, and they're so open to everything. And they do take a risk of inviting someone to their home, although they know that there might be a risk, or people who are a guest, they accept the risk. So they're just risk takers, adventurous, and open.
Okay. So that's the type of people. So if you fall under one of those categories, couch surfing is for you. Okay, it's about getting to know more about other people, the culture, the
Try.
background. So that's couch surfing. Once again, making this clear to listeners or anybody who comes across this episode, this is not a dating app. If you are feeling lonely and you are looking for love, please Google dating apps wherever you are. It's not couch surfing. Okay.
Yeah, that's what would we all couch surfers. We all just focus on it a lot. Like we always say in our bio, everything, we just say couch surfing is not a dating app. Don't use it for that. We do meet different people who want to meet us for who we are, not for just getting to know us as for that reason.
Yeah.
So we will annoy you now.
Yeah. No, I also wanted to make it clear for listeners and also wanted to have a laughing moment for myself there. Sometimes I got an issue with dating apps while we on, the topic. It's cool, it's out there. I remember once, and look, I'm also a type of person where if I see, an app come up, like, cool, let me try it or let me see exactly what it does, but not really dating apps, more AI apps. Um, and, Mark Zuckerberg, who the founder of Facebook, he said once he went onto a dating app because this is how they do research. And I get that, you know. So even there's a lot of apps that I go on to that other people will be like, nah, we're not going to do that, why try something like that? But I do it because I'm researching. I still want exactly like how far are we actually getting here? How is development taking place? Because AI is developing like each and every single second. It's progressing. So I would go on to, for example, these like you know like how you and I are chatting, but this is human to human. So I would go on to these apps where you can, find a friend, make your own friend on AI because it's probably for someone out there who's an introvert and can't talk, to another human, whatever. And then I will go on to one app and then I'll start this conversation and then I'll check, okay, cool. The interaction is quite cool. Then I'll ask like a bit of a complicated question. And then I can see by the response, okay, it's not programmed yet to give me such an answer. But then you give it about a couple of weeks and then you go back on, now it can. And that's just the thing. You see, uh, what people need to understand is that our daily interactions with technology, whether it be on a tablet, a phone, or a laptop, whatever we are doing, the big tech companies behind the scene are gathering all of that information. And that's how AI is advancing. So the questions that we actually research or we asking one of these AI bots, they might not know the answer yet, but give it some time because you ask the question, the guys in the background know, look, okay, that question popped up, and now they integrate it with the technology itself, and that's how AI learns and learns and learns. So, yeah, scary but cool in the same breath. Okay, Zara, thank you so much for informing us about what coach surfing is. I know this can reach anyone, any corner of the world, but once again, for people in the East or wanting to tour the East, if this is something that's relatable to you and something you think that will enhance your experience traveling in the East, the link will be in the description for you to go check it out. All right. Any final words?
No, thank you. Thank you for bringing cool subjects. I do.
And this was actually you, not me. You take the credit.
You were asking about couchsurfing. Anybody could just search and find out about it. But you were asking like me to talk about it. So it's more of my observations, and it's important because there are a lot of information about something, but the person's observation sometimes is more important than the other general information. Because
Yeah,
yeah, okay.
yeah. 100%. Well, thank you so much and catch you later. See you soon.
Thank you, Kino. Catch you later.
Right. Bye.
Bye.